On June 5, 2012, 24-year-old Nathan Price, a solo traveler from New York, arrived at Grand Cayman in the Caribbean. Nathan had always loved the ocean, and this trip was meant to be a break from his stressful job back home. He had researched the island's famous coral reefs for months and was particularly eager to visit Stingray City, a renowned snorkeling site. Nathan, known for his adventurous spirit, had invested in a new GoPro just before the trip, determined to capture every moment of his underwater exploration. That morning, the sun was bright and the ocean appeared calm. Nathan, wearing a blue rash guard and his snorkeling gear, waded into the water with excitement. He secured the GoPro to his mask and tested it to ensure it was recording properly. The water was warm and visibility was excellent, setting the stage for what he expected to be a perfect snorkeling session. The Cayman Islands are famous for their diverse marine life, including vibrant fish, sea turtles, and the occasional encounter with reef sharks. These sharks can reach up to 10 feet in length and are known to be territorial, often patrolling the reefs for prey. While generally considered less aggressive than species like tiger sharks or great whites, reef sharks can be unpredictable, especially if they feel threatened. Nathan swam further from shore, following a line of colorful coral formations. The GoPro captured beautiful footage of the underwater world: starfish resting on the ocean floor, a school of angelfish weaving through the coral, and a few curious stingrays gliding by. Nathan's breathing was steady, and he seemed comfortable, moving slowly to avoid disturbing the marine life. Roughly 30 minutes into his swim, Nathan ventured toward a deeper part of the reef, where the colors were even more vivid and larger fish were visible. As he kicked his fins gently, his camera caught the first sign of trouble. In the distance, a shadow appeared, moving with an eerie calm toward him. At first, Nathan seemed unfazed, likely thinking it was a larger fish or a harmless nurse shark. But within moments, the shadow sharpened into the unmistakable outline of a large reef shark. Nathan slowed down, likely hoping the shark would lose interest and swim away. The GoPro footage showed his hesitation as he tried to maintain composure, keeping his body still. But the shark was not deterred. It circled Nathan, its movements becoming quicker and more direct. Sensing the danger, Nathan attempted to back away slowly, but the shark followed, now closing the distance with alarming speed. Suddenly, the shark lunged at Nathan's side, its jaws snapping shut with terrifying force. Nathan screamed, the sound muffled by his snorkel as the impact jolted his body. The GoPro captured the moment in gruesome detail. Nathan's hands instinctively reached toward the shark, trying to pry its jaws open. Blood erupted from the wound, swirling in the water and obscuring the camera's view. Nathan thrashed violently, kicking his legs to try to break free from the shark's grip. But the shark held on, shaking its head side to side in an attempt to tear into Nathan's flesh. The camera recorded every brutal moment: Nathan's frantic struggles, his desperate attempts to push the shark away, and the bubbles rising rapidly as he screamed for help. His hands were bloodied from trying to force the predator's mouth open, and his kicks became increasingly frantic as the shark dragged him deeper. The shark released Nathan briefly, giving him a split second to swim upward. Gasping for air and shaking from pain and shock, Nathan tried to distance himself, but the shark wasn't done. It circled again, its eyes locked on him with a predator's intent. Nathan's body was now weakened by blood loss, his movements slower and more desperate. As he attempted to swim back toward the shallower waters, the shark lunged once more, this time clamping onto Nathan's leg. Nathan's body jerked as the shark pulled him downward with incredible force. The GoPro captured his hands clawing at the water, trying to grab onto anything that might help him escape. His legs kicked wildly, but the shark's grip was too strong. The predator's jaws dug deeper and Nathan's screams were lost in the water. Blood clouded the lens, obscuring the view but not the sound of Nathan's final muffled cries. For nearly 2 minutes, the footage showed a horrifying struggle. Nathan's desperate fight for life, the shark's relentless attack, and the ever-expanding cloud of blood that filled the water around them. Finally, Nathan's body went limp, his arms floating listlessly as the shark released him and swam away. The GoPro, still attached to his mask, continued to record as Nathan's body began to sink slowly toward the ocean floor, the camera capturing the silence that followed. Hours later, a group of divers exploring the same reef site noticed the floating GoPro mask. At first, they thought it was simply lost equipment. But as they reviewed the footage back on their boat, the horrifying reality became clear. They immediately contacted local authorities, who began a search for Nathan's body. By the time rescue divers reached the site, Nathan's body had disappeared, likely carried away by the currents or scavenged by other marine life. When Nathan's family received the GoPro, they were devastated. The footage was more than they could bear, showing the raw terror of their son's final moments. Despite the pain, they made a difficult decision: to release the footage publicly, hoping it would serve as a stark warning to other snorkelers and divers about the unpredictable dangers of the ocean. The video went viral almost immediately, shocking viewers with its unfiltered portrayal of the deadly encounter. It became one of the most widely viewed shark attack videos ever recorded, sparking debates about the ethics of venturing into wild waters and the importance of safety measures in remote snorkeling locations. Nathan's story, captured in heartbreaking detail, served as a grim reminder of the ocean's unpredictability and the brutal reality of its most dangerous inhabitants. For those who watched, it was a chilling lesson in the thin line between adventure and tragedy. In the summer of 2003, Dr. Rachel Carter was on a research expedition off the coast of the Lofoten Islands in Norway. A renowned marine biologist, Rachel had spent years studying orcas and their behaviors. This trip was memorable. She was observing a pod of orcas seen frequently in the area. The Lofoten Islands were breathtaking, with towering cliffs, deep fjords, and crystal-clear waters. Rachel and her team had set up their base on a research vessel named Arctic Explorer. They ventured into the cold waters daily, documenting the orcas and their interactions. One clear morning, Rachel decided to dive alone to get a closer look at the pod. She geared up, checked her equipment, and jumped into the chilly water. Her heart raced excitedly as she descended into the depths, surrounded by the stunning underwater landscape. The orcas were majestic creatures, gliding effortlessly through the water. Rachel marveled at their grace and intelligence. She watched as they communicated, their clicks and whistles echoing through the ocean. Everything seemed perfect, but suddenly, Rachel noticed a change in the orcas' behavior. The pod had been playful and curious, but now they seemed agitated. She scanned the water, trying to understand what had caused the shift. Then she saw him, a large male orca separated from the pod, staring directly at her. Rachel's heart skipped a beat. Rogue male orcas were known to be unpredictable and aggressive. She tried to remain calm, slowly backing away. But the orca was not deterred. He swam towards her rapidly, his black and white body cutting through the water like a torpedo. Panic set in. Rachel turned and swam as fast as she could, her legs propelling her through the water. She needed to reach the surface to signal her team for help, but the rogue orca was relentless. She felt the water churn behind her as he closed the distance. Rachel's mind raced with everything she had learned about orcas. She knew they were brilliant and could mimic human behavior. She tried to outsmart him, zigzagging through the water, hoping to confuse him. But the orca was a master of the ocean, matching her every move. In a desperate attempt, Rachel swam towards a nearby kelp forest. The thick strands of kelp might slow the orca down, giving her a chance to escape. She dove into the dense foliage, weaving through the green strands. The kelp wrapped around her, slowing her down, but she pushed on. She could feel the orca's presence behind her, the water vibrating with his powerful movements. Rachel's lungs burned, her air supply running low. She needed to find a way out, to reach the surface before it was too late. Finally, she saw a small opening in the kelp. She swam towards it, using the last of her strength. She broke through the kelp, emerging into a clear patch of water. But as she looked up, she saw the orca waiting for her, his dark eyes fixed on her. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest. She was trapped, with nowhere to go. She floated there, suspended in the cold, dark depths of the ocean, facing the intelligent and dangerous predator. Rachel's heart raced as she floated in the cold, dark water, staring at the rogue orca. She knew she had to stay calm and think fast. Her mind went over everything she knew about orcas, trying to find a way to outsmart the massive predator. The orca moved closer, and Rachel realized she couldn't outswim him. She had to use her knowledge and the environment to her advantage. She noticed a rocky outcrop nearby and swam towards it, hoping to find a small crevice where the orca couldn't follow. She reached the outcrop and found a narrow opening between two large rocks. Rachel squeezed through the gap, scraping her suit against the rough surface. She hid in the small space, her heart pounding in her ears. The orca circled the rocks, his large body unable to fit into the tight space. Rachel took a moment to catch her breath and think. She knew she couldn't stay there forever. Her air supply was limited, and she needed to return to the surface. She checked her dive watch and saw she had only a few minutes of air left. The orca seemed to lose interest momentarily, swimming away from the rocks. Rachel saw her chance. She slowly and quietly slipped out of her hiding spot, careful not to make sudden movements that might attract the orca's attention. She swam towards the surface, her movements controlled and deliberate. The water above her shimmered with sunlight, starkly contrasting the dark depths below. But just as she thought she was safe, she felt the water churn behind her. The orca had noticed her escape and was coming back. With a burst of speed, Rachel swam upwards, her lungs burning for air. She could see the surface getting closer and closer, but the orca was behind her. In a final desperate move, she grabbed her emergency flare gun from her belt and fired it toward the orca. The bright light and sudden noise startled the orca, causing him to veer off course. Rachel used the distraction to break through the surface, gasping for air. She waved frantically at her team on the Arctic Explorer, signaling for help. Her team saw her and quickly moved the boat towards her. They threw a lifeline and Rachel grabbed it, feeling relieved as they pulled her aboard. She collapsed on the deck, breathing heavily, her body trembling from the adrenaline and cold. The team didn't waste any time. They quickly gathered their equipment and returned to shore, leaving the dangerous waters behind. As the boat sped away, Rachel looked back at the ocean, the encounter with the orca etched in her memory. Back on land, Rachel received medical attention and was treated for exhaustion and minor injuries. The incident shook her profoundly and reinforced her respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. She knew she had been lucky to survive. In the weeks that followed, Rachel continued her research with renewed caution. She shared her story with her colleagues, emphasizing the importance of safety and awareness while studying marine life. The experience had been a harrowing reminder of the unpredictable nature of the ocean. Rachel's encounter with the rogue orca became a well-known story among marine biologists. It served as a testament to the intelligence and power of these magnificent creatures, and the need for respect and caution when venturing into their domain. Though the memory of the attack lingered, Rachel remained dedicated to her work. She knew understanding and protecting marine life was crucial, and she used her experience to advocate for safer research practices. The ocean was a place of wonder and danger. Rachel was determined to continue exploring its depths, armed with knowledge and respect. On July 8, 2001, a sunny afternoon at New Smyrna Beach, Florida, unfolded like any other summer day. Families gathered along the shoreline, enjoying the warm sand and gentle waves of one of the state's most popular beaches. Among them was the Williams family, David, his wife Ellen, and their two children, 9-year-old Emily and 7-year-old Noah. It was their first vacation in years, a much-needed break from the routine of work and school. New Smyrna Beach, often called the shark bite capital of the world, was known for its frequent shark sightings. Bull sharks were especially common in these waters, patrolling the shallow surf in search of food. Bull sharks are one of the most aggressive species, known for their ability to thrive in both salt and fresh water. Despite the risks, beachgoers rarely worried, assuming attacks were rare and far from the shore. That day, the Williams family was in high spirits. Ellen was holding the video camera, capturing moments of the children playing in the sand and running into the shallow waves. David stood nearby watching as Emily and Noah ventured a little farther into the water, splashing and laughing. The waves were small and the water barely reached the children's waists, making it seem like a safe place for them to play. Ellen zoomed in with the camera, focusing on Emily and Noah as they kicked at the surf. Noah, trying to mimic his sister, dove forward, letting the small waves carry him a few feet before standing up again. As they continued to play, David kept a close eye, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was just another carefree day at the beach. Suddenly, Ellen noticed something in the water behind Emily, a dark shape moving rapidly through the surf. Her heart skipped a beat, but she assumed it was a large fish. However, the shape moved closer, and in a flash, the water erupted. Ellen's camera shook as she screamed, realizing the horrifying truth. It was a bull shark, and it was heading straight for Emily. The shark, likely drawn by the splashing and movement, lunged at Emily's leg. Its powerful jaws clamped down, pulling her under the water. The sudden surge drowned Emily's scream, her small body jerking violently as the shark thrashed. Noah, just a few feet away, stood frozen, watching in terror as the predator dragged his sister. David reacted instantly, sprinting into the water. He reached Emily within seconds, grabbing her arm and trying to pull her free. But the shark held its grip, refusing to let go. Ellen's camera continued recording, capturing every moment of the desperate struggle. Blood filled the water, spreading rapidly around Emily and David as the shark continued its attack. Nearby beachgoers shouted for help, and lifeguards rushed toward the scene, sprinting across the sand. One of the lifeguards, Kyle, reached the water first, diving toward David and Emily. He carried a rescue float, swinging it at the shark in an attempt to scare it off. The shark, startled by the sudden commotion, released Emily's leg and swam a short distance away. David quickly lifted Emily into his arms, carrying her toward the shore. But the attack wasn't over. The bull shark circled back, its fins slicing through the bloody water. Kyle grabbed the rescue float again, keeping himself between the shark and the fleeing family. The shark hesitated for a moment, then turned away, disappearing into the deeper surf. Ellen dropped the camera, running to meet David and Emily as they reached the sand. Blood streamed down Emily's leg, her face pale from shock and pain. Noah, still in tears, ran after his family, unsure of what had just happened. Lifeguards quickly called for medical help, wrapping Emily's leg to slow the bleeding while guiding the family away from the water. The beach, once filled with the sounds of laughter and fun, fell silent as onlookers realized what had occurred. Parents grabbed their children, pulling them back from the surf, their faces filled with fear. The footage from Ellen's camera, still running on the sand, captured the aftermath. The lifeguards tending to Emily, the beachgoers watching in shock, and the once safe waves now stained with blood. Rescue crews arrived within minutes, loading Emily onto a stretcher and rushing her to the nearest hospital. The beach was immediately closed, with lifeguards and authorities urging everyone to stay away from the water. As news of the attack spread, more parents gathered their children, trying to process the terror that had unfolded just moments earlier. Ellen's camera was later recovered, and the footage was intact. It shows the entire attack, from the moment the shark lunges at Emily to David's desperate attempt to save her. The video quickly made its way to local news stations and within days became viral across the internet. The raw and shocking footage left viewers horrified, sparking intense debates about the safety of swimming at New Smyrna Beach. As the public reacted with outrage, authorities faced immense pressure to address the safety concerns. In the following weeks, the beach was closed indefinitely. Residents and tourists were warned to avoid the area, and increased patrols were made to monitor shark activity along the coast. The attack, captured in such vivid detail, had made a lasting impact, serving as a grim reminder of the lurking dangers in seemingly calm waters. In the winter of 2000, adventure photographer Mark Evans found himself on the icy expanse of the Antarctic Peninsula. The stark, pristine beauty of the landscape was a dream come true for Mark, who had always been drawn to the world's most remote and challenging environments. His mission was to capture images of the unique wildlife in this frozen wilderness. Mark set out early one morning, the cold air biting his face as he trudged through the snow. He was particularly interested in photographing the seals often gathered on the ice floes. After hours of patient waiting, he finally spotted a group of seals basking in the weak sunlight on a large ice floe. Excited, Mark carefully approached the edge of the ice floe, setting up his camera and tripod with precision. Most indifferent to his presence, the seals continued to lounge and play. Mark snapped several photos, thrilled by the opportunity to capture these magnificent creatures in their natural habitat. Mark decided to move in a bit more to get a closer, more detailed shot. He edged forward cautiously, mindful of the fragile ice beneath his feet. As he focused his lens on a substantial male seal, he noticed the animal watching him intently. Mark clicked the shutter, the sound echoing in the still air. To his surprise, the large seal suddenly shifted its weight and began moving towards him. At first, Mark thought the seal was merely curious, but the animal's movements quickly became more aggressive. The seal lifted its head, letting out a deep, guttural growl that sent a shiver down Mark's spine. Before he could react, the seal charged, its powerful body sliding swiftly across the ice. Mark's heart raced as he realized the playful encounter had turned dangerous. He grabbed his camera and tripod, backing away quickly, but the seal was relentless. The ice beneath him cracked and shifted, making every step precarious. Mark's mind raced. He had to escape the seal's attacks and reach safety. But the vast expanse of ice and the frigid waters posed a severe challenge. The seal continued its pursuit, eyes fixed on Mark with territorial fury. Mark's heart pounded as he backed away from the charging seal. The ice beneath his feet creaked ominously, threatening to give way at any moment. He needed to stay calm and think quickly. The seal was powerful and fast, and the icy terrain was treacherous. He glanced around, searching for a way to escape. A nearby ice ridge offered a potential refuge. If he could climb it, the seal might not be able to follow. Clutching his camera and tripod, Mark dashed the ridge. The seal, sensing his movement, accelerated its pursuit. Mark reached the ice ridge and began to scramble up its slippery surface. His hands were numb from the cold, making it difficult to grip the ice. He could hear the seal's growls growing louder behind him, its frustration evident. With a final burst of effort, Mark hauled himself onto the top of the ridge and looked down. The seal lunged at the base of the ridge, its massive body unable to scale the steep incline. It thrashed and bellowed, its eyes locked onto Mark with unrelenting determination. Mark took a moment to catch his breath, his heart still racing. He knew he couldn't stay on the ridge forever. The cold was seeping into his bones, and he needed to find a way back to the safety of his camp. Mark spotted a series of ice floes leading back towards the shore. It would be a risky path, but it was his best chance. He carefully descended the ridge on the opposite side, keeping a wary eye on the seal, which was still trying to find a way to reach him. Mark hopped from one ice floe to the next, each step balancing speed and caution. Unable to follow directly, the seal swam through the icy water, trying to cut him off. Mark could feel the cold seeping through his boots and clothing, but he pushed on, driven by the need to escape. Finally, he reached a larger floe that connected to the shore. He scrambled onto it, his legs trembling with exhaustion. Realizing it had lost its prey, the seal let out a final, frustrated growl before retreating into the water. Mark collapsed onto the ice, breathing heavily and grateful to be alive. Once he had regained some strength, Mark made his way back to his camp. The experience had shaken him, but he knew he had a story to tell. He warmed himself by the fire and reviewed the photos on his camera. The images of the seals, including the aggressive male, were stunning. They captured the raw power and beauty of the Antarctic wildlife. Mark's adventure in Antarctica had taken a dangerous turn. Still, it also gave him a more profound respect for the animals and their environment. He knew he would be more cautious in the future, but he also knew he had captured something remarkable. The close encounter with the seal had been a reminder of the unpredictable nature of wildlife and the importance of respecting their territory. Mark felt a sense of accomplishment as he settled into his tent for the night. He had faced a life-threatening situation and survived. His photographs would share the story of the Antarctic seals, highlighting their majesty and the challenges they faced in their icy home. On March 15, 1999, a group of tourists boarded a boat at Gansbaai, South Africa, ready for an exciting tour of the famous shark-infested waters near Dyer Island. Gansbaai, located about 2 hours from Cape Town, is known as the Great White Shark Capital of the world, attracting thrill-seekers eager to witness the ocean's most feared predator up close. The cold Atlantic waters here are prime hunting grounds for great whites, drawn to the dense seal population and schools of fish. Among the tourists was 24-year-old Adam Keller, visiting from Australia, eager to capture the sharks on camera. He was joined by other travelers, including Laura and Peter, a young couple from Germany, and several others from various countries, each armed with cameras and binoculars. The boat's crew, experienced in navigating these dangerous waters, assured everyone of a safe but thrilling encounter. The tour began smoothly, the boat cutting through the waves as the crew shared stories of previous shark sightings. The weather was clear, and the tourists eagerly scanned the horizon for the famous dorsal fins. Some were on the upper deck, while others leaned over the side, hoping to catch a glimpse of a great white breaking the surface. As the boat approached Dyer Island, the crew prepared for the main attraction, chumming the water to draw the sharks closer. The scent of fish parts and blood spread through the water, a tactic designed to attract great whites from afar. Within minutes, the first dorsal fin appeared, slicing through the surface. The tourists cheered and pointed at their cameras, excited to capture the moment. Meanwhile, about 200 yards away from the boat, an unsuspecting swimmer was in the water. His name was Tom Winters, a local who had decided to take a swim along the nearby shoreline. Despite the posted warnings about shark activity, Tom had often swum in these waters and felt confident in his ability to handle the ocean. He was unaware that the boat's crew was chumming the water nearby, or that a massive predator had been lured closer. As the boat's passengers focused their attention on the approaching sharks, someone noticed Tom in the distance. The man shouted to the crew, pointing toward Tom's position, but it was too late. Without warning, a great white shark over 16 feet long surged from the depths. It leapt partially out of the water, aiming directly at the swimmer. The tourists' excitement quickly turned to horror as the shark attacked with shocking speed and force. The boat's passengers watched in disbelief, some recording with their cameras while others screamed for help. Tom, unaware of the danger, was suddenly pulled under as the shark's massive jaws clamped down on his side. The force of the bite sent waves crashing around him, and blood spread rapidly in the water, turning it a deep red. Tom struggled to break free, his body twisting as he tried to fight off the predator. The shark's powerful jaws made escape nearly impossible. The tourists on the boat could only watch in terror as the shark dragged Tom deeper. One of the crew members quickly radioed for help, but they knew that every second counted and Tom was running out of time. The great white continued its assault, shaking Tom violently in a series of death rolls meant to incapacitate its prey. The water churned with each twist, making it hard for those on the boat to see what was happening beneath the surface. Tom's frantic movements grew weaker as the shark pulled him further from view. The passengers leaned over the edge, desperately hoping for a sign that he had escaped. But the shark wasn't done. It resurfaced briefly, its dorsal fin cutting through the bloodied water. The passengers gasped as they saw the shark's dark silhouette below the surface, moving with deliberate, deadly grace. Despite Tom's attempts to kick free, the predator's grip was too strong. The tourists' screams filled the air, mixed with the sound of the crew shouting for rescue boats that were still minutes away. The attack lasted only moments, but it felt like an eternity to those watching. The shark's powerful body thrashed as it continued to drag Tom deeper, his struggles growing weaker until he disappeared entirely below the surface. The water settled for a brief moment, leaving only a spreading cloud of blood and floating debris. The crew threw flotation devices and used poles to try to reach Tom's last known position, but there was no sign of him. The passengers on the boat were shaken, some in tears, while others continued filming, unable to comprehend the horror they had just witnessed. The boat circled the area, but the shark remained out of sight, and it was clear that Tom's chances of survival were slim. Several rescue boats arrived, their crews scanning the water for any sign of Tom. Divers prepared to enter the water despite the clear danger posed by the still active shark. The scene was chaotic, with rescue teams coordinating efforts to recover Tom, but their attempts were futile. After nearly an hour of searching, it was clear that Tom's body would not be recovered. The footage captured by multiple passengers quickly made its way to the news and later social media. The video showed the entire attack from different angles: the shark's sudden leap, the chaotic thrashing, and the chilling disappearance of Tom beneath the waves. It was unlike any shark attack footage seen before, capturing the raw terror of a predator in action. The video spread rapidly, shocking viewers worldwide. Many who had once considered the ocean a place of adventure now saw it as a place of hidden danger. The brutal attack off Gansby was a stark reminder of the ocean's untamed nature and the deadly power of the great white shark. The summer of 2024, marine biologist Dr. Alex Hayes embarked on a crucial research expedition in the waters of the Fiji Islands. Known for their vibrant coral reefs, the islands provided a perfect setting for Alex's study of the delicate underwater ecosystem. Alex, a dedicated scientist, was excited about discovering new marine species and understanding the dynamics of the coral reefs. One morning, Alex donned his diving gear and plunged into the crystal-clear waters of the Pacific Ocean. As he descended, he marveled at the colorful corals and diverse marine life surrounding him. He carefully documented his observations, taking photographs and notes as he moved gracefully through the water. While examining a particularly intricate section of the reef, Alex noticed a rare sea snake gliding through the water. The snake, with its distinctive black and yellow bands, was one of the most vicious creatures in the ocean. Alex was fascinated by its graceful movements and decided to get a closer look, hoping to capture detailed footage. As he approached the snake, it seemed curious, effortlessly weaving its way through the corals. Alex maintained a respectful distance, aware of its potent venom. However, he inadvertently moved too close in his eagerness to document the rare sighting. The sea snake, feeling threatened, suddenly became agitated. It coiled its body and struck with lightning speed, sinking its fangs into Alex's arm. Pain shot through Alex's body as the venom entered his bloodstream. He recoiled in shock, his mind racing. He knew that the venom was highly toxic and that his only chance of survival was to reach the surface and administer the anti-venom stored on the boat. His heart pounded as he realized the gravity of his situation. Fighting the panic that threatened to overwhelm him, Alex began his ascent. Every movement was a struggle as the venom took its toll, weakening his muscles and clouding his mind. He focused on his breathing and the rhythm of his kicks, determined to reach the surface. The underwater terrain was treacherous, with sharp corals and narrow passages that hindered his progress. As he swam upwards, he could feel the sea snake trailing him, its presence a constant reminder of his danger. He had to be careful not to provoke another attack. The pain in his arm was intense and he could feel his strength waning with each passing second. Alex's vision blurred as he continued his ascent, his strength ebbing away with every kick. The venom coursed through his veins, making it harder to focus. He knew he had to stay calm and keep moving. The surface seemed so far away, but he couldn't afford to slow down. The sea snake was still nearby, its sleek body weaving through the water. Alex kept a wary eye on it, avoiding sudden movements that might provoke another strike. He needed to navigate the underwater terrain carefully, avoiding sharp corals and narrow gaps that could trap him. His breathing became labored as the venom's effects intensified. He felt a burning sensation spreading from the bite wound, accompanied by a numbness that made it difficult to move his arm. Desperation set in, but Alex forced himself to stay focused. He thought about the anti-venom on the boat, his lifeline to survival. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Alex broke through the water's surface. Gasping for air, he waved frantically to his team on the boat, who had been monitoring his dive. They quickly realized something was wrong and sprang into action. Alex shouted weakly for the anti-venom. His team quickly pulled him aboard, their faces filled with concern. One of his colleagues, Dr. Emily Wright, grabbed the anti-venom kit and administered the injection. Alex lay on the deck, his body trembling as the anti-venom began to counteract the effects of the venom. As the anti-venom took effect, Alex felt the pain gradually subside. His vision cleared, and he could feel his strength slowly returning. He knew he was not out of danger yet, but the immediate threat had passed. His team monitored his vital signs, providing support and reassurance. Hours later, as the boat returned to shore, Alex reflected on the harrowing experience. He had come face to face with one of the ocean's deadliest predators and survived. The encounter had been a stark reminder of the risks involved in his work. Still, it also reinforced his passion for marine biology and the importance of respecting the creatures he studied. Back on land, Alex received further medical treatment and rest. The experience had left him physically and emotionally drained, but he was grateful to be alive. He knew that his research could help raise awareness about the dangers of the ocean and the need to protect its inhabitants. As he recovered, Alex reviewed the footage and data he had collected. Despite the terrifying encounter, he had captured valuable information about the sea snake and the coral reef ecosystem. His dedication to his work remained unwavering, and he was determined to continue his research with even greater caution and respect for the underwater world. The ordeal had changed him, making him more aware of the fine line between curiosity and danger. Alex knew he would return to the waters of Fiji better prepared and more mindful of the risks. The ocean held many secrets, and he was committed to uncovering them while ensuring his and his team's safety. With a renewed sense of purpose, Dr. Alex Hayes looked forward to the next chapter of his journey as a marine biologist, ever grateful for the lessons learned from his close encounter with the deadly sea. In the autumn of 1995, adventurer Sarah Mitchell explored the remote rivers of the Australian outback. The Ord River in Western Australia was known for its rugged beauty and diverse wildlife. An experienced explorer, Sarah was eager to document the untouched wilderness and its inhabitants. Early one morning, Sarah set off in her canoe, paddling through the calm waters of the Ord River. The scenery was breathtaking, with towering eucalyptus trees lining the banks and the calls of exotic birds echoing in the distance. Sarah felt a deep connection with nature and enjoyed the moment's serenity. Sarah's senses were alert as she navigated through a narrow river passage. She knew the region was home to the most dangerous predator in Australia, the giant saltwater crocodile. She had read about their immense power and cunning behavior and was cautious but confident in her abilities. Without warning, the water around her canoe exploded. Hidden beneath the surface, a massive saltwater crocodile surged upwards and slammed into her canoe. The sudden and violent impact sent Sarah and her canoe into the air before crashing back into the water. Disoriented and gasping for breath, Sarah found herself thrown into the murky river. Her canoe was overturned and her gear was scattered. Panic set in as she realized the danger she was in. The crocodile, a monstrous reptile with powerful jaws, was now in the water with her. Sarah's training kicked in. She knew she had to stay calm and think fast. She kicked her legs, trying to distance herself from the crocodile. The ancient beast, however, was relentless. It circled her, its cold, calculating eyes fixed on its prey. The water was thick with vegetation, making it hard to see. Sarah scanned her surroundings, looking for anything that could help her. She spotted a fallen tree branch floating nearby. Grabbing it, she used it to keep herself afloat and to fend off the crocodile's attacks. The crocodile lunged at her, its jaws snapping dangerously close. Sarah pushed the branch towards its snout, trying to keep it at bay. The crocodile was mighty, and she could feel the pressure of its bite through the branch. She had to find a way to escape before her strength gave out. Sarah's heart pounded as she struggled to keep the crocodile at bay with the branch. The reptile's eyes remained locked on her, its mighty jaws ready to snap shut. She knew she couldn't hold it off for long. Her muscles ached and the cold water sapped her strength. In a moment of clarity, Sarah remembered a survival tactic she had learned during her training. Crocodiles were fast in short bursts, but slower when maneuvering around obstacles. She scanned the riverbank and spotted a cluster of large boulders partially submerged. If she could reach them, she could outmaneuver the crocodile. Summoning her remaining strength, Sarah kicked hard and swam towards the boulders, the branch still in her grasp. The crocodile lunged again, but she pushed its snout away just in time. She felt the rush of water as the beast thrashed behind her, but she kept moving, her eyes fixed on the rocks ahead. Reaching the boulders, Sarah scrambled onto the largest one, pulling herself out of the water. She gasped for breath, her body trembling with exhaustion. The crocodile circled below, frustrated by the barrier. Sarah knew she had a brief time window to plan her next move. She spotted a narrow path along the rocky riverbank that led up to the higher ground. It was her best chance of escaping the crocodile's reach. Carefully, she climbed from boulder to boulder, using her hands and feet to grip the slippery surfaces. The crocodile snapped at her heels, but the rocks slowed it down, giving her a slight advantage. Finally, Sarah reached the top of the riverbank. She collapsed onto the dry ground, her chest heaving. She looked back to see the crocodile retreating into the water, its eyes still watching her. She had made it to safety, but knew she couldn't let her guard down yet. Gathering her strength, Sarah stood up and began the trek back to her campsite. Her clothes were soaked, and she shivered in the cool air. Every step was a reminder of the close call she had just experienced. She moved quickly, determined to distance herself from the river as much as possible. Back at her campsite, Sarah immediately checked her supplies and equipment. She had lost some gear, but she was thankful to be alive. She radioed for help, informing her team of the encounter and her location. They assured her they were on their way. As she waited for her team to arrive, Sarah reflected on the harrowing experience. The Australian outback had proven to be as dangerous as it was beautiful. She knew she had been lucky to survive the encounter with the crocodile, and the ordeal had taught her valuable lessons about respect and caution in the wild. When her team finally arrived, they helped her pack up and escorted her to safety. Sarah's adventure in the Ord River had come to a dramatic and terrifying end. Still, she knew it was a story she would carry forever. The experience tested her limits and reaffirmed her passion for exploring the world's most remote places. As they drove away from the river, Sarah looked at the landscape. Despite the danger, she felt a deep connection to the wild beauty of the outback. She knew she would return someday, better prepared and ever mindful of the ancient predators that called it home. On June 22, 1997, a team of professional divers set out for a documentary shoot in Tubataha Reefs Natural Park, located in the Sulu Sea off the coast of the Philippines. The park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is known for its vibrant coral reefs and diverse marine life, making it a prime destination for both conservationists and filmmakers. The dive team, led by marine biologist Dr. Martin Ellis, aimed to capture the beauty of the reef's untouched underwater world. Among the crew was Simon Harris, a 34-year-old veteran underwater cameraman, known for his work on several high-profile marine documentaries. This was his first trip to Tubataha, and he was excited to film the breathtaking coral formations and exotic marine species. The team also included Sarah Jacobs, a marine researcher, and Paul White, a safety diver. All were experienced and aware of the risks involved in filming in open waters, where dangerous animals were part of the landscape. The day began with perfect conditions. The crew's boat reached the dive site just after dawn, and Simon was eager to start filming. The divers checked their gear thoroughly, ensuring the cameras, regulators, and safety equipment were in working order. Simon tested his camera's underwater housing one last time while Sarah and Paul discussed the diving plan, emphasizing safety protocols in case of unexpected encounters. Although tiger sharks were known to frequent these waters, the team was optimistic that the shoot would go smoothly. Around 9 a.m., the divers descended into the water. The initial footage was exactly what they hoped for: stunning shots of colorful corals, schools of fish, and graceful sea turtles. Simon swam slowly, keeping a steady hand on the camera as he captured the reef's beauty. The visibility was excellent, and the vibrant underwater life created a perfect backdrop for the documentary. Sarah swam nearby, observing the marine species, while Paul stayed close, scanning the surroundings to ensure the team's safety. After about an hour of filming, Simon noticed a large shadow in the distance. He adjusted his camera, zooming in to get a clearer shot. It was a tiger shark, a massive one known for its distinctive stripes and unpredictable behavior. These sharks are among the largest predators in the ocean, often exceeding 15 feet in length. Unlike other sharks that might be deterred by human presence, tiger sharks are curious and can be aggressive, especially when they feel threatened. The team maintained their composure as the shark approached, continuing to film while remaining still. Simon's camera captured the shark's slow, calculated movements as it swam closer, its gaze fixed on the divers. The crew knew not to panic or make sudden movements. They remained calm, hoping the shark would simply pass by. But the shark's behavior suddenly changed. It stopped circling and swam directly toward Simon. Before he could react, the shark lunged, ramming into him with brutal force. The impact knocked Simon back, sending the camera tumbling from his hands. He reached out instinctively, grabbing hold of a nearby coral formation to steady himself, but the shark was relentless. In one swift motion, it bit into Simon's side, its powerful jaws clamping down with terrifying force. The pain was immediate, a searing shock that spread through Simon's body. He tried to push the shark away, but it was too strong. The shark shook its head violently, its teeth digging deeper. Sarah, witnessing the attack, swam toward Simon, trying to distract the shark, while Paul grabbed a metal pole used to fend off aggressive animals. Paul struck the shark's head repeatedly, but it continued its assault, refusing to let go of Simon. Simon struggled to break free, using his free hand to strike at the shark's snout and gills, areas known to be sensitive. His movements were frantic, but his strength was fading rapidly as blood clouded the water around him. The shark released Simon momentarily, only to lunge again, this time attempting to bite his leg. Simon kicked as hard as he could, aiming to strike the shark's nose. The shark backed off slightly, giving Simon a brief chance to swim away. Paul, seeing the opportunity, grabbed Simon by his arm and started pulling him toward the safety cage suspended by the boat above. Sarah swam alongside them, keeping an eye on the shark, which was still circling as if deciding whether to make another attack. The situation was dire. Simon's injuries were severe, and blood loss was making it difficult for him to stay conscious. His breathing became labored and his vision blurred, but he forced himself to keep moving. The shark made one final attempt, surging forward with its jaws open. Paul turned just in time, using the metal pole to jab at the shark's snout. The impact startled the predator, causing it to veer off momentarily. This gave the divers the crucial seconds they needed. They reached the safety cage, and Paul pushed Simon inside, with Sarah following close behind. The shark lingered, circling the cage and bumping against the metal bars, but it soon lost interest and swam away into the depths. Simon collapsed inside the cage, clutching his side, where the shark's bite had torn through his wetsuit and into his flesh. Blood seeped into the water and his face was pale, a combination of shock and exhaustion. The crew on the boat above quickly hoisted the cage out of the water, bringing Simon to the surface. His camera, still recording during the attack, had captured every horrifying second. As Simon was pulled aboard, the team worked frantically to stop the bleeding. His wetsuit was soaked with blood and his breathing was shallow. The boat sped back toward shore where medical help awaited. Simon's injuries were severe, but not life-threatening, thanks to the quick actions of his team. The footage from the attack was later reviewed as part of the documentary, revealing the raw, terrifying encounter in graphic detail. The team, shaken but relieved that Simon had survived, knew the risk they had faced. The video, which later became part of the documentary, showed the brutal reality of working in open waters with wild predators. The footage spread quickly, sparking debates about the ethics and dangers of filming in such extreme conditions. It was a stark reminder of the ocean's unpredictability and the real threat posed by one of its most formidable predators. In the summer of 1998, the Florida Keys buzzed with excitement as fishermen worldwide gathered for the annual deep-sea fishing competition. Among them was Jack Larson, a seasoned fisherman with years of experience. Jack was well known in the fishing community for his skill and determination. He was determined to catch the biggest fish this year and claim the top prize. The day was perfect for fishing. The sky was clear and the Atlantic Ocean waters were calm. Jack and his crew set out early in the morning on his boat. They cruised to a well-known fishing spot, hoping to land a massive catch. Jack's heart raced with anticipation as he cast his line into the deep blue waters. Hours passed with little activity, but Jack remained patient. Suddenly, he felt a strong tug on his line. His adrenaline surged as he realized he had hooked something big. He tightened his grip and began the battle to reel in the fish. His crew gathered around, cheering him on. The fish was mighty, pulling with such force that Jack had to use all his strength to keep it from escaping. Sweat dripped down his face as he fought against the creature's might. As the minutes turned into an hour, Jack caught a glimpse of his catch, a massive swordfish, its long, sharp bill glinting in the sunlight. But the swordfish was not ready to give up. With a sudden burst of energy, it charged towards the boat. Jack's eyes widened in shock as the fish's bill pierced the hull with a loud crack. The impact threw Jack off balance, and before he knew it, he was hurled overboard into the cold, churning waters. Disoriented and gasping for air, Jack struggled to stay afloat. The salt water stung his eyes, and he could feel the sting of a wound on his arm where the swordfish's bill had grazed him. Panic set in as he realized he was in the water with an enraged swordfish. He had to act fast. The swordfish circled him, its movements quick and aggressive. Jack kicked hard, trying to distance himself from the dangerous fish. He glanced back at the boat, which was taking on water from the hole in the hull. His crew frantically tried to patch it up and throw him a lifeline. Jack's mind raced as he tried to figure out how to survive. He knew the swordfish's bill was lethal, capable of inflicting severe injury or even death. He had to stay calm and think strategically. Every movement could provoke another attack from the fish. He remembered his training and the countless hours he had spent at sea. Jack focused on staying as still as possible, hoping the swordfish would lose interest. But the fish wasn't giving up. It charged at him again, and Jack barely dodged its lethal bill. The struggle seemed endless. Jack's muscles ached and he could feel his strength waning. He needed to return to the boat, but the swordfish was relentless. He kicked again, trying to create more distance, but the fish followed, its eyes locked on him. As he floated in the open ocean, Jack could hear his crew shouting his name. He knew they were doing everything possible to save him, but time was running out. He had to survive until they could reach him. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the water, and the temperature dropped. Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself for the next attack. He couldn't give up. He had to fight with everything he had, using his knowledge and experience to outsmart the mighty predator. His life depended on it. Jack's heart pounded as he floated in the cold water, the setting sun casting an eerie glow over the ocean. The swordfish circled him again, its movements swift and deliberate. He had to keep his wits about him, relying on his years of experience to survive. The swordfish lunged once more, its sharp bill aiming for Jack. He twisted his body just in time, narrowly avoiding the deadly strike. His arm throbbed with pain from the earlier wound, and he could feel his energy draining away. But he couldn't give up. He had to stay alive. He glanced back at his boat. His crew was working feverishly to patch the hole in the hull and get the ship back in motion. They shouted words of encouragement and threw a lifeline into the water. Jack saw the rope and knew he had to reach it. With determination, Jack kicked his legs and swam towards the lifeline. The swordfish followed, relentless in its pursuit. He felt a surge of hope as he got closer to the rope. His fingers brushed against it and he grabbed hold, clinging tightly. His crew pulled with all their might, dragging Jack towards the boat. The swordfish charged again, but Jack kicked at it, keeping it at bay. Inch by inch, he was hauled closer to safety. His arms burned with effort, but he didn't let go. Finally, he reached the side of the boat. His crew grabbed him under the arms and hauled him aboard. Jack collapsed on the deck, gasping for breath. He was soaked and shivering, but he was alive. The swordfish thrashed in the water below, still angry but unable to reach him. The crew quickly tended to Jack's injury, wrapping his arm in a makeshift bandage. They managed to patch the hole in the hull enough to keep the boat afloat. As they returned to shore, Jack lay on the deck, staring at the darkening sky. The journey back was tense. Jack's mind replayed the harrowing encounter with the swordfish. He knew he had come close to death, and it was a sobering thought. The Florida Keys, usually a place of beauty and adventure, had turned into a battle for survival. When they finally reached the dock, Jack's crew helped him off the boat and rushed him to a nearby clinic. The doctor there cleaned and stitched up his wound, praising Jack's toughness and resilience. Jack nodded, but inside he felt relief and exhaustion. Word of Jack's ordeal spread quickly among the fishing community. Many were amazed by his story of survival, but Jack didn't see himself as a hero. He knew he had been lucky and couldn't shake the memory of the swordfish's relentless attacks. In the days that followed, Jack took time to recover and reflect. He realized how fragile life could be and how important it was to respect the power of nature. He had always loved the sea, but now he understood its dangers more deeply. Jack decided to share his story with others, hoping to raise awareness about the risks of deep-sea fishing. He wanted to make sure other fishermen were prepared and cautious to prevent such close calls in the future. His experience had taught him valuable lessons, and he was determined to use them for good. Jack felt renewed purpose as he stood on the shore looking at the vast ocean. He knew he would return to the sea, but with a newfound respect for its power. The battle with the swordfish had changed him, but hadn't taken away his love for the ocean. Instead, it had deepened it, making him a wiser and more cautious fisherman. On March 21, 2003, the shores of Bells Beach, Australia, were packed with eager spectators for the Rip Curl Pro Surfing competition. Bells Beach, located along Victoria's Great Ocean Road, is one of the most famous surfing spots in the world, drawing both top surfers and massive crowds each year. That morning, the energy was high, the waves were perfect, and the sun shone bright, setting the stage for an exciting day. Among the competitors was 27-year-old Matt Turner, a professional surfer from Queensland. Known for his aggressive style and fearless approach, Matt had been surfing competitively for nearly a decade. He was a favorite to win the tournament, and his family, friends, and fans eagerly watched from both the beach and screens around the world. The event was broadcast live, with drones capturing every wave, wipeout, and triumph in real time. As the morning progressed, Matt caught several impressive waves, earning high scores from the judges. By noon, he was lined up for one of the biggest waves of the day, a massive swell building in the distance. The crowd roared as Matt paddled hard, positioning himself perfectly. He caught the wave rising smoothly to his feet as the drone hovered above, providing a bird's-eye view to viewers everywhere. Matt's skill was clear. He maneuvered effortlessly, cutting back and forth with precision. But as he approached the wave's peak, something unusual happened. The drone's operator noticed a dark shape below the surface, moving rapidly toward Matt. At first it was unclear what it was, but as the drone zoomed in, the unmistakable outline of a great white shark emerged. Great whites are common along Australia's coastline and are known for their size and powerful attacks. They often hunt in shallow waters, especially during the warm months when seals and fish are abundant. The crowd on the beach was still cheering, unaware of the impending danger. But those watching the live broadcast from home were among the first to see the predator closing in. The shark's dorsal fin broke the surface just as Matt reached the wave's crest. Before anyone could react, the shark launched itself out of the water, breaching with terrifying force. It clamped onto Matt's side, pulling him off his board. The impact sent Matt crashing into the water, the wave collapsing around him. The drone captured every second, the sudden attack, Matt's struggle, and the chaotic splash of water tinged with blood. On shore, the crowd fell silent, unsure of what had just happened. The announcers' voices broke with panic as rescue boats sped toward Matt's location. Matt tried to free himself, kicking and punching at the shark, but the predator's grip was strong. The great white thrashed violently, its body twisting as it dragged Matt deeper. The water around them turned red, visible even from the beach. Spectators gasped in horror as they realized the gravity of the situation. Rescue teams reached Matt within seconds, throwing flotation devices into the water. 2 lifeguards, clad in wetsuits, dove in without hesitation, pulling Matt away from the shark's reach. The predator made another lunge, snapping its jaws at one of the rescuers. But the lifeguard managed to deflect it with a board. Matt, bleeding heavily from his side and leg, was quickly lifted onto the rescue boat. The live broadcast continued, showing the frantic efforts of the rescue team as they performed first aid on Matt. Blood soaked his wetsuit and he appeared dazed, barely conscious from the shock and pain. The camera captured the desperation of the crew as they tried to stabilize him, racing against time to get him to shore. Back on the beach, spectators stood frozen, some in tears, while others clung to their loved ones. Many had brought their children to watch the event, never expecting to witness such a terrifying scene. As Matt was carried onto a stretcher, the cheers that had filled the beach earlier were replaced by stunned silence. The great white shark, meanwhile, remained near the competition area for a few minutes longer, its dorsal fin cutting through the water before disappearing into the depths. Authorities immediately called off the competition, urging everyone to leave the water. Surfers, some still on their boards, paddled back to shore quickly, shaken by what they had just witnessed. The footage of the attack, captured live from multiple angles, quickly made its way to news channels and social media platforms worldwide. Viewers were horrified by the raw and unedited scenes, which replayed Matt's terrifying struggle with the shark. For days, the video was the subject of intense media coverage, becoming one of the most watched shark attack clips in history. Bells Beach, once a place of celebration for surfers and fans, was now marked by the horrifying event that had unfolded on live television. In the summer of 2005, in the coastal town of Gansbaai, South Africa, Tom and his wife Lisa decided to spend a sunny afternoon on the ocean. Known for its scenic beauty and abundant marine life, Gansbaai was a favorite spot for locals and tourists alike. Tom and Lisa had been married for 5 years, and they often enjoyed these peaceful boat rides, using them to escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The sky was clear that day, and the sea was calm. The couple set off from the shore in their small boat with a packed lunch and a cooler full of drinks. They laughed and chatted as the boat gently rocked on the waves. Tom, feeling exceptionally playful, was in high spirits. He loved making Lisa laugh and often teased her in good fun. As they cruised along the coast, Tom got a naughty idea. He thought it would be funny to scare Lisa by pushing her into the water. With a playful grin, he snuck up behind her and gave her a gentle push. Lisa, taken by surprise, screamed as she fell overboard. For a moment, Tom chuckled, expecting Lisa to pop up and laugh it off. However, when Lisa resurfaced, her face showed shock and annoyance. She trod the water and shouted at Tom, but he could tell she wasn't mad. He extended a hand to help her back on the boat, still grinning. Then everything changed in an instant. The serene blue of the water suddenly turned dark as a massive shadow moved beneath the surface. Tom's smile vanished as he saw a huge dorsal fin slicing through the water toward Lisa. His heart pounded in his chest and panic set in. Lisa's eyes widened with terror as she saw the fin too. She frantically tried to swim towards the boat, but the great white shark was too fast. In a horrifying moment, the shark lunged at Lisa, dragging her underwater. The sea turned red with blood as Tom watched in helpless horror. Tom screamed, reaching out into the water. He grabbed a nearby rope and threw it toward Lisa, but it was too late. The shark was relentless, and Tom's desperate attempts to save her were futile. Tom felt an overwhelming sense of guilt and terror. He had only meant to play a harmless prank, but now his beloved wife was in danger because of him. He could barely breathe as he saw the shark thrashing in the water, Lisa's screams piercing the air. In his frantic state, Tom tried everything he could to fend off the shark. He grabbed an oar and began hitting the water, shouting and trying to scare the predator away. But the shark was relentless, its mighty jaws clamping down on Lisa with deadly force. Tom's eyes filled with tears as he realized the gravity of his mistake. The playful mood was gone, replaced by a nightmare he couldn't escape. He could hear Lisa's cries for help, and it tore him apart that he couldn't do more to save her. The scene was a blur of red water, thrashing fins, and desperate screams. Finally, the shark disappeared into the depths, leaving behind a trail of blood. Shaking and sobbing, Tom pulled the rope back into the boat, but Lisa was gone. The water around him was eerily calm again, but Tom knew his life would never be the same. The sunny afternoon had turned into a scene of horror and loss. Tom's prank had gone wrong, leaving him with a haunting guilt that would never fade. The boat rocked gently on the waves, a stark contrast to the turmoil in Tom's heart. Desperately, Tom grabbed the radio and called for help, his voice cracking with anguish as he repeated his plea. He identified his boat, Seabreeze, and explained that a shark had attacked his wife, urgently requesting assistance. The Coast Guard responded quickly, assuring Tom they were coming. He clung to the hope that somehow they could save Lisa. But deep down, he knew the truth. The blood in the water and the severity of the attack left little room for hope. Minutes felt like hours as Tom waited, staring at where Lisa had disappeared. He replayed the events repeatedly in his mind, wishing he could turn back time. The sound of approaching boats broke his trance. The Coast Guard arrived, and a team of divers quickly prepared to search the area. Tom watched helplessly as the divers dove into the water. Every second felt like an eternity. He prayed silently, begging for a miracle. The divers searched diligently, but after what seemed like forever, they surfaced with grim expressions. One of them approached Tom, shaking his head, conveying the heartbreaking news without words. Tom's heart shattered. The reality of Lisa's death hit him like a tidal wave. He fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. The Coast Guard crew tried to console him, but their words were lost in the sea of his grief. Tom couldn't stop thinking about how his innocent prank had led to such a tragic end. The boat ride back to shore was a blur. Tom sat silently, staring at the horizon, lost in his thoughts. The once beautiful coast of Gansby now seemed like a place of horror and loss. When they reached the dock, Tom was met by local authorities who gently escorted him to a nearby station to take his statement. In the following days, Tom couldn't escape the nightmare that haunted him. He stayed at a small hotel, unable to return to the home he had shared with Lisa. The town of Gansby, once a place of joy and love, had constantly reminded him of his fatal mistake. News of the incident spread quickly, and Tom found himself under intense scrutiny. Some people offered sympathy, but others blamed him for what had happened. The guilt weighed heavily on his shoulders, and he struggled to find a way to cope with his loss. Tom decided to seek therapy, hoping to find some semblance of peace. His therapist, Dr. Melanie Brooks, listened patiently as he recounted the tragic events. She encouraged him to express his feelings and to find ways to honor Lisa's memory. With time, Tom began to channel his grief into something positive. He started a foundation in Lisa's name dedicated to shark conservation and safety awareness. He wanted to prevent others from experiencing the same tragedy. The foundation aimed to educate people about the dangers of the ocean and how to respect its inhabitants. Tom also began participating in community outreach programs, sharing his story in the hopes that it would serve as a cautionary tale. He wanted people to understand the importance of taking safety seriously and being aware of their surroundings. Though the pain of losing Lisa never indeed went away, Tom found solace in helping others. He dedicated his life to making a difference, turning his grief into a force for good. The foundation grew and Tom found a new purpose, keeping Lisa's memory alive through his work. Years later, standing on the shore of Gansby, Tom looked out at the ocean with a heavy heart. The water was calm and beautiful, but he knew its power too well. He whispered a silent prayer for Lisa, hoping she had found peace. That sunny afternoon changed Tom's life forever, but he had learned to live with his loss. He knew Lisa would always be a part of him, guiding him as he worked to make the world safer. On August 12, 2007, Max Ryder, a 32-year-old adventure seeker from California, embarked on a solo spearfishing trip off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii. Max was known for his thrill-seeking lifestyle, often sharing his extreme adventures with thousands of followers online. This trip was part of his latest plan to showcase the rugged beauty of Hawaii's underwater world to his audience. He had visited Oahu several times before, drawn to its rich marine life and crystal-clear waters, and he considered himself an experienced diver. That morning, Max prepared his equipment with excitement. The weather was perfect and the waters of Oahu were calm, ideal conditions for spearfishing. Max checked his GoPro, adjusted his live stream setup, and ensured his satellite link was working to broadcast the experience in real time. He boarded a small rented boat and headed out into deeper waters near Cana Point, a remote area known for its diverse fish population, strong currents, and the occasional presence of large predators, including tiger sharks. Tiger sharks are among the largest and most aggressive sharks in the world, known for their unpredictable behavior and territorial nature. They can grow up to 15 feet long and are common around Hawaiian waters, often hunting near reefs where fish and other prey are plentiful. Despite these risks, Max felt confident in his abilities and safety precautions. He had his spear gun ready, and his viewers were already tuned in, sending encouraging messages through the live chat as he approached the dive site. Max anchored his boat and entered the water around 9 a.m., holding his spear gun with one hand and steadying his GoPro with the other. As the live stream continued, he spoke to his audience, explaining the reef below and the types of fish he hoped to catch. He descended slowly, moving with precision to avoid spooking the fish. For the first hour, the trip was going smoothly. Max speared a few smaller fish, attaching them to a stringer clipped to his weight belt. The water was clear, and viewers marveled at the vibrant coral and schools of fish surrounding Max. Everything seemed peaceful. But then, around 10:15 a.m., Max's GoPro captured a sudden shift in the atmosphere. He noticed a shadow in the distance, a large, dark figure moving slowly toward him. It was a tiger shark, at least 12 feet long, its powerful body gliding closer with each passing second. Max kept calm, knowing that sudden movements could provoke the shark. He tried to back away slowly while keeping an eye on the predator. The live stream audience was already filled with nervous comments, viewers noticing the shark before Max even mentioned it. Max spoke in a steady voice, trying to assure his viewers that everything was under control. But the tension was evident. The tiger shark began circling him, its eyes locked on the fish attached to Max's belt. It moved closer, and its behavior became more aggressive. Max knew he needed to return to the boat immediately. He slowly began to swim backward, keeping the spear gun pointed toward the shark. But the shark made a sudden, fast approach. In one violent motion, it lunged at Max's side, its jaws clamping onto his leg. The attack was caught live on camera, and Max's scream, muffled by his snorkel, sent shockwaves through the stream. Max dropped his spear gun, trying to use his hands to push the shark away. The tiger shark's grip was strong, its sharp teeth tearing into Max's thigh. Blood filled the water, spreading rapidly as Max struggled to free himself. He kicked frantically with his other leg, aiming for the shark's sensitive snout, trying to loosen its grip. After a few desperate seconds, the shark released him, only to circle back with renewed aggression. Max's leg was badly injured, blood gushing from the deep wounds. He struggled to stay afloat, the pain almost unbearable. But his survival instincts kicked in. He knew he had to get back to the boat before the shark attacked again. Using one arm to paddle and the other to hold the GoPro, Max fought to move forward, his breathing rapid and his movements erratic. The shark wasn't done. It swam around Max, making another attempt to bite him. Max managed to fend it off with the GoPro, using it as a makeshift weapon. His hands shook and he was losing strength, but he refused to give up. He kicked with all his remaining energy, trying to create distance between himself and the predator. Viewers, helpless behind their screens, watched in horror as Max's struggle continued. Meanwhile, the live feed reached the attention of local authorities in Oahu, who were alerted by frantic viewers. The Coast Guard and a nearby tour boat operator were immediately dispatched to Max's location, using the GPS coordinates from the live stream. Back in the water, Max was still trying to reach the boat, his vision blurred as blood loss and exhaustion set in. His strokes became weaker and his leg felt numb. But he kept pushing, knowing that stopping wasn't an option. The tiger shark made one final lunge, this time going for Max's arm. Max swung the GoPro at the shark's head, managing to make contact with its nose. The shark pulled back slightly, giving Max the crucial seconds he needed. He grabbed onto the side of his boat, using all his remaining strength to pull himself halfway onto it. Blood poured from his leg, staining the deck as he collapsed. Just then, the tour boat arrived, its crew throwing a lifebuoy to Max. 2 crew members jumped into the water to help pull Max aboard. The shark circled the boat once more before retreating into the deep. The rescuers quickly stabilized Max, applying a tourniquet to his leg to slow the bleeding. Max's face was pale, his breathing shallow, but he managed to stay conscious as they sped back toward shore. The Coast Guard arrived shortly after, escorting the tour boat and preparing to airlift Max to the nearest hospital. The live stream, still running, captured the rescue operation in full view. Viewers were relieved to see Max being tended to, but the intensity of the footage left many shaken. The entire attack, from the shark's first lunge to Max's desperate climb back onto the boat, had been witnessed in real time by thousands of people. Max's injuries were severe but not life-threatening, thanks to the quick response of the rescue team. However, the psychological impact of the attack lingered long after. The video of the live-streamed rescue became one of the most-watched shark attack clips online, sparking intense debates about the risks of solo ocean exploration and the unpredictable nature of wild encounters. Max's story, captured in harrowing detail, served as a stark reminder of the dangers lurking beneath the ocean's surface. For those who watched, it was a chilling and unforgettable lesson in the fine line between adventure and survival.